The stranger stood still, his dark eyes scanning the streets like a predator sizing up its prey. I noticed him while I was setting out books for the day. No one knew where he came from, only that he walked into the market square one morning, dressed in a faded green kaftan and carrying a leather satchel. The dry harmattan winds swept through the village of Mbala, carrying whispers of a stranger. People gossiped in hushed tones. Some said he is a traitor, others thought he is a lost traveler. But I feel something is wrong with the newcomer. I'm Amara, the village's librarian.
Good morning,
He said with a polite nod. His voice was calm, almost too calm. I had always been a quiet observer, keeping to myself among the rows of books in our tiny library. That day, I wasn't expecting the newcomer to step through the library's door. Good morning, I replied, forcing a smile. Can I help you find something?
Yes,
He said, his gaze sharp.
I need books on history, particularly books on herbal healing.
There was an odd intensity in his tone, but I led him to the small section on folklore. As he thumbed through the pages, I couldn't help but notice the scar on his left hand, a jagged line, like a bolt of lightning. Is that from a battle? I asked cautiously. His lips curved into a faint smile.
You could say that.
The stranger, who introduced himself as Kwame, rented a room in Mama Nkechi's inn. Mama Nkechi was known for being nosy, yet even she admitted Kwame shared little about himself. By evening, she whispered to me as we fetched water at the well.
Amara, that one is hiding something. You can see it in his eyes.
Maybe he's just private, I suggested, though I wasn't convinced. One evening, Elder Bako visited the library. He was the oldest man in Mbala, known for his wisdom and his stories.
Amara,
He began, his voice heavy.
do you know who this Kwame truly is?
No, I said. But he seemed different. Elder Bako nodded gravely.
There is an old tale of a person who travels from village to village, carrying with them a deadly secret. Wherever they go, misfortune follows. Be careful.
His words sent a chill down my spine. Over the next few days, strange things began happening. Chickens disappeared from pens, shadows flitted across windows at odd hours, and once, I thought I saw Kwame talking to someone deep in the forest, but when I blinked, he was alone. Despite my suspicions, Kwame began to frequent the library. He'd ask questions about the village's history and its people. Over time, he revealed snippets about his life.
I used to have a family,
He said one day, staring at the horizon.
but I lost them. Now, I'm just searching for something.
His vulnerability caught me off guard. Could he truly be dangerous? The more I watched Kwame, the stranger his behavior seemed. He often disappeared at night and reappeared at dawn, dirt on his hands. Once, I followed him to the edge of the forest, where he buried something small and shiny. What are you hiding, Kwame? I muttered to myself. The annual Yam festival was Mbala's biggest celebration. That night, the entire village gathered under the stars, singing and dancing. For the first time, Kwame joined us, blending in as if he'd always belonged. But as the drums thundered, a blood-curdling scream shattered the joy. We found Mama Nkechi in her inn, trembling and pale.
Someone ransacked my room. And they left this.
She held up a bloodied pendant. Elder Bako gasped.
That belongs to the lost tribe of Ezi, the ones who.
He didn't finish. All eyes turned to Kwame, who stood silently, his expression unreadable. Is this true? I demanded, cornering Kwame after the crowd dispersed.
Amara, there are things you don't understand, things I cannot explain.
Then explain why misfortune follows you, I snapped. His eyes softened.
Because I carry a burden, one that others would kill for.
That night, Kwame told me everything. He is the last survivor of a secret clan, protectors of an ancient artifact with unimaginable power. The scar on his hand was proof of his oath.
But others want it, and they'll stop at nothing to get it.
Before I could process his story, we heard the sound of drums from the forest. Fires lit the horizon as a group of masked figures marched toward Mbala.
They found me, and now they'll stop at nothing to destroy this village.
What do we do? I asked, fear gripping me. Kwame's expression hardened.
We fight.
Dear viewers, if you were in Amara's shoes, would you trust Kwame, or would you turn him away to save the village? Before we continue, if you're enjoying this video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your support. The forest seemed alive that night. Shadows danced between the trees as the masked figures approached, their torches casting flickering light on the village. A chilling drumbeat echoed in the air, sending a wave of fear through Mbala. Kwame stood by my side, his jaw clenched, his scarred hand gripping the leather satchel. You should have told us, I hissed, my voice shaking.
You wouldn't have believed me.
Kwame replied, his eyes fixed on the approaching threat. I wanted to argue, but he is right. And now, because of his secret, the entire village was in danger. The villagers gathered in the market square, their faces pale with fear. Elder Bako raised his hands, his voice trembling as he spoke.
We do not know who they are, but we must defend ourselves. This is our home.
Mama Nkechi, though frightened, stepped forward.
And what about the stranger? What role will he play in this madness?
All eyes turned to Kwame.
I will fight with you, but you must trust me. I am not your enemy.
His words hung in the air, heavy with doubt. Yet there was no time to debate. We armed ourselves with machetes, farming tools, and anything we could find. The masked figures struck at midnight. They moved with precision, their faces hidden behind carved wooden masks that glinted eerily in the torchlight. I hid behind a stack of yam baskets, clutching a rusted blade. Kwame stood at the forefront, his movements swift and calculated. He seemed to know the attacker's strategies, countering each strike with an uncanny familiarity. But it wasn't enough. The villagers were untrained, and fear made us clumsy. Cries of pain filled the air as the attackers pushed us back. In the chaos, Kwame's satchel fell open, and something rolled out, a small, gleaming stone that seemed to pulse with an inner light. What is that? I whispered, my heart pounding. Kwame grabbed the stone and pressed it against their chest.
It's the Heart of Ezi, the source of my people's power and their curse.
Before I could ask more, one of the masked figures lunged at Kwame, shouting, "Give it to us." As the battle raged, I noticed something strange. Some villagers fought with unusual ferocity, their eyes wild and unfocused. Then it hit me, these weren't villagers. They've infiltrated us, I shouted to Elder Bako. He nodded grimly.
We can trust no one.
The realization sent a wave of paranoia through the village. Suddenly, neighbors were eyeing each other with suspicion, and alliances began to crumble. Kwame pulled me aside.
We can't fight them here. If they get the heart, it's over. We need to draw them away.
Reluctantly, I followed Kwame into the forest. The drums grew louder as we ran, the masked figures hot on our heels. What's so special about that stone? I asked, my lungs burning.
It holds the power to control life and death. But it comes at a price. Anyone who uses it loses their soul.
Kwame said. As we fled deeper into the forest, we stumbled upon an abandoned shrine, its walls covered in ancient carvings. Kwame stopped, his eyes wide with recognition.
This is where it all began.
He murmured. What do you mean? Kwame placed the heart on the altar.
This is the resting place of my ancestors. The heart was meant to stay here, but my clan took it, thinking they could harness its power. But it destroyed them.
Before I could respond, the masked figures surrounded us. The leader of the masked figures stepped forward, his voice cold and commanding. Kwame, you've run long enough. Hand over the heart, or we'll destroy this entire village. Kwame glanced at me, their expression torn.
If I give it to them, They'll use it to raise an army. They'll destroy more than just Mbala.
Then what do we do? I asked, panic rising in my chest. Kwame's eyes hardened.
We destroy it.
Destroying the heart wasn't easy. It required a blood sacrifice. Kwame explained that only someone of their lineage could perform the ritual.
I have to do this,
he said, his voice steady. No. I protested. There has to be another way.
There isn't,
Kwame said, placing a hand on my shoulder.
You've been brave, Amara. But this is my burden to bear.
The ritual began, the heart glowing brighter with each chant. The masked figures tried to stop us, but the villagers, finally united, held them off. As Kwame completed the ritual, the heart shattered into 1,000 shards of light. The masked figures screamed, their bodies dissolving into mist. When the light faded, Kwame was gone. All that remained was their satchel, lying empty on the altar. The village was safe, but the cost was heavy. The shrine crumbled, burying the heart's remains forever. Elder Bako placed a hand on my shoulder.
Kwame did what they had to. He saved us.
I nodded, tears streaming down my face. But at what cost? As we returned to Mbala, I couldn't shake the feeling that Kwame's story wasn't over. The heart might be gone, but its legacy remained as a reminder of the dangers of power and the sacrifices required to protect what we hold dear. Here are 5 moral lessons from this story. First, judging others without understanding can lead to division. Second, unity is key to overcoming adversity. Third, true strength lies in sacrifice for the greater good. Fourth, curiosity can lead to growth. 5. The past always finds a way to shape the present. Dear creative cruisers, do you think the heart's destruction truly ended its curse, or could its power resurface someday? Share your thoughts in the comments. Press the subscribe button and turn on notification for the next story. Until next time, stay strong.